In this podcast episode, Ben Shapiro delves into the current state of Joe Biden's campaign, which is described as being in meltdown. The primary subjects of the podcast include Biden's struggle to win back black voters, the Democratic National Convention, the trial of former President Trump, the Biden administration's handling of key issues, the Middle East conflict, and affirmative action in academia. Shapiro begins by highlighting the symptoms of a campaign in meltdown, drawing parallels to past campaigns like Jimmy Carter's in 1980. One of the key indicators of Biden's campaign troubles is his difficulty in winning back black voters, who historically vote for Democrats in large numbers. Despite winning 92% of the black vote in 2020, recent polling shows Trump gaining significant support among black voters. In response, Biden's campaign has resorted to desperate tactics, such as deploying celebrities like Robert De Niro to try to win back support. Shapiro criticizes the decision to have De Niro speak outside a courthouse where Trump is being tried, calling it a desperate and nonsensical move. De Niro's presence is seen as a last-ditch effort to garner attention for Biden's campaign, which is struggling to gain traction. Shapiro questions the logic behind this decision and highlights the absurdity of using a celebrity like De Niro to sway voters. The discussion then shifts to the upcoming Democratic National Convention and the decision to nominate Biden virtually to avoid potential protests. Shapiro predicts that protests and conflicts within the party could erupt at the convention, further highlighting the internal struggles faced by Biden's campaign. He also criticizes Biden for lacking a clear sense of purpose and leadership, which has led to his campaign being buffeted by the winds within the Democratic Party. Biden's tendency to shift positions based on the prevailing winds has alienated voters and eroded trust in his leadership. In contrast, Shapiro emphasizes that Trump's campaign is in a much stronger position, with unwavering support from his base and a clear sense of purpose. He argues that Biden's campaign is floundering, with desperate tactics and a lack of conviction undermining his chances of success in the upcoming election. The podcast also touches on the trial of former President Trump, with Shapiro criticizing the weak closing arguments and highlighting the lack of evidence and reasonable doubt present in the case. Shapiro then discusses the Biden administration's handling of key issues such as immigration, inflation, and energy policy. He criticizes the administration for ignoring the concerns of Americans, particularly regarding rising prices and border security. He expresses frustration with Biden's leadership and the perceived incompetence of his administration. The podcast moves to the situation in the Middle East, focusing on the conflict between Israel and Hamas. Shapiro highlights Hamas's history of lying and manipulating the media to garner sympathy, pointing out a recent incident where Hamas falsely claimed that Israel targeted a humanitarian area. He criticizes the Biden administration for its lack of clarity and support for Israel in the face of Hamas's deception. Finally, the podcast addresses the issue of affirmative action in academia, where David Austin Walsh shared his struggles as a white academic in a field where diversity often trumps merit. Shapiro criticizes Walsh for his perceived capitulation to the demands of the academic establishment, suggesting that he deserves his predicament for not standing up for himself.